Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Manino and Nareman Hamdan, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hi, everybody. It's Michael Manino, and welcome to Driven Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who share their experience with you, the audience, and how they got to where they're at today. And zooming from the beautiful island of Calgary, Alberta, we have Lindsay White. She's a high voltage leadership. That's your company, right?
That is my company.
All right. Do me a favor, Lindsay. Tell everybody how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah. The journey has been an interesting one. Always is. So I've been lucky in my career to work for two really incredible Canadian-based companies. One called Mark's Work Warehouse, Canadian retailer, worked there for a decade. And then I worked for another company called ATB Financial for another decade. And I unfortunately ended up working for a leader who really was everything that I stand against. And I was in a meeting with that human and recognized during the course of that conversation that this relationship was no longer tolerable for me. And I made a bold statement. I said, I'm not sure I fit here anymore. And I walked away from my 10-year career, closed my laptop, ended the meeting, went home, calculated my own severance because I'm a 20-year HR professional, and exited the business. And came home, and my husband was here, and he said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "I think I just quit my job."
I think I just quit my job. And that was a huge turning point for me. I had already decided as an HR pro that I wanted to deepen my coaching skill set. I worked with a lot of C-suite executives and senior leaders, working on their people strategy, helping them talent management. And a lot of my time was spent actually working with them to be a better leader. And I recognized that coaching was something that I was really into. I love asking smart people great questions and getting them to really think deeply about it. So I dove straight into my coaching certification and knew that I wanted to coach leaders and executives to up their game. You can't have a next level team without being a next level leader. And one of my peers during my coach training basically triple dog dared me to start my own business. And I had never thought about being an entrepreneur. I'm a total accidental entrepreneur. Started the business about 8 years ago, launched High Voltage Leadership almost 7 years ago. And here I am today, still standing through global pandemics and downturns and upturns. Oh, you started at the right time, 2020, right?
I actually launched the business in October of 2019. And hindsight being what it is, would not have done that. But I figure if you can make it through 2 years of global pandemic, you could probably survive anything at that point.
Pretty much true. And you're a mother of four, aren't you?
Yes, I have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. Now they're all young adults. I'm actually a grandmother. I have 2 little grandsons as well. So
congratulations.
Yeah, we have quite the family. It's a cast of characters.
It's a cast of characters. And apparently your two boys like lacrosse to give blood, huh? Blood on a daily basis.
Yes. Oh, yes. There is usually someone who's beaten up, a little broken, and generally bleeding. And we love it. Love it.
Yeah, that's the weird part. When you cheer on your kid into a battle, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of competition in the space that you're in, in coaching. What sets you apart? What do you do differently that everybody else does? What's easy to you that comes challenging to most people?
Yeah. First of all, I've been coaching for probably the better part of 30 years. It was certainly part of my role when I worked as a strategic HR partner, again, with C-suite, with senior leaders, with team leads, with emerging leaders. That was really a big part of my role, even though to some degree got done on an informal basis. So I think that, first of all, a lot of people in the coaching space go into it because they're very interested in it, but it's actually a part of how I operate. Whether I'm consulting, I do a lot of fractional HR work with small business. So it's a part of my coaching and consulting practice. It's also something that I take very deeply and very personally. My focus is on leaders.
I want people to be far more effective, show up authentically, and really feel powerful in how they lead, not just in their business, in their work, but also in their life. And so that's what really sets me apart, aside from the designations, right? I have the actual chops, the training. And I think that's key too.
Yeah. So when you said the difference, because most coaches are coaches for business, you do for business and personal.
Yes. It is personal.
Yeah, you got a good point. Business is personal.
Yeah, it is.
I agree with that. Yeah, that's a good point. What are the things that you challenge your mentees?
Yeah, when I work with my coaches, or mentees, I am really challenging them to self-reflect. And I think that is a piece that is so often missing in our leadership, is really thinking about what is important to us. What do we care about the most? What are our values? What's our purpose? What are we even doing here? What are we meant to impact or change? And actually getting deeply connected to that, and then being able to reflect that being part into the doing, into the behavior, into how we show up, especially in those critical, most meaningful, most pressure filled moments. That's when the rubber hits the road for us as humans and as leaders.
Exactly. Share one of your most challenging clients, we'll call them.
Yeah.
And what did you do with them, and how did you get them to where they need to be?
Yeah.
The challenging ones are the best lessons.
They sure are. And they challenge me to be a better coach and a better consultant, because I bring both to the table. Right. And I think that's what my clients really love, is it's not just about asking questions. It's about actually sharing. There's a real give and take, a real connection. One of my most challenging clients was a lawyer, and was our chief risk officer. And I really appreciated working with him, because lawyers see the world as a zero-sum game. There's winners and losers. It's very straightforward for them. And I really appreciate he was very clearly spoken. He made great arguments, as most lawyers do. But what we were able to do together was actually get underneath. Why is this important to you? Why does there have to be a loser here and a winner? Why is this so black and white? Where is the gray? And how do we understand who's on the other side of the argument? What's important for them? Where do we actually have a lot in common? Like, where are those pieces where actually we're in alignment? And then let's sort out the pieces where we're divergent. And working in that space with him, again, very challenging, kept me on my toes, and I love it. But we were actually able to help him really uncover what was important for the business, not just for him. And that was absolutely critical.
What was important for him? What was important for the business?
I think from his perspective, it was really about compliance and risk. And he was actually very dedicated to ensuring not only did people adhere to policy or procedure or risk analysis registers and all of those things they do in that space, he really wanted people to operate with integrity. And when we could get to that space and what integrity meant to him and how that applied in the space we were working in, really collaboratively with other leaders, then he was actually able to articulate that much more clearly. And we were able to find alignment, make sure that definition of integrity was actually something that all the leaders could really get behind. And in fact, what happened is the conversations became more cohesive. People really understood more clearly what was at stake, and actually were far more collaborative going forward. People had a real deep connection to that definition, because I think most of us want to operate with integrity, right? That speaks to who we are, not just what we do. And I think that was critical, actually understanding that for himself, and then being able to articulate that in a way that made sense in that business risk compliance space.
A lot of times I've seen leaders not even have a mission statement. Like, you don't have a mission statement. What are you doing? How does this work? And they're like, we're just trying to do business, or we're trying to do this. Okay, cool. What's your mission statement? What's your why?
What's your why?
I bet you get that question not answered a lot.
Again, it's one of those beautiful, bold questions that stops really smart people in their tracks. Things like, what do you care about most? What are your values? How is that relevant in a business space? No, it's very important. Especially, I work with a lot of founders. You bring your personal values to that organization. And especially as you grow it, as you start to scale, it's critical that you have the definition for you personally, how you operate, for example, with integrity in the world. And then how do you want others who are employed by your business or contract to your business or your clients to feel the integrity? What's that definition? And then let's understand how that applies. So personally, it often people define integrity as doing the right thing even when nobody's watching. So how is that relevant in a business? Something to the effect of doing the right thing even when it's not always profitable. So when we can clearly bring that definition to our organizations, to our team, then they can understand and align themselves and personalize that same value and that same definition. And then we start to operate again more cohesively.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. If someone listening wants to get better at what you do, what tips and tricks would you give them? What suggestions?
Yeah. So first of all, as a coach and a consultant, I think you really have to be deeply curious. So hone your curiosity, right? The Ted Lasso, be curious, not judgmental. And actually, one of the biggest things I had to learn, and I just had this conversation with someone who's curious about moving their consulting practice into a more coach-like approach. We talked about this yesterday. And I said, the hardest part is actually parking your own judgment, parking your own beliefs, even parking some of your own expertise so that you can get under the hood with the person that's in front of you. Right? And actually really digging in and asking the really bold questions and then letting the silence do the heavy lifting, giving them space, giving them time, allowing them to process, and then asking that next question. Doesn't need to be the right one. It just needs to go that little step further to help them go deeper. And that, I think, is one of the biggest things that you have to learn. It can be the trickiest, especially when you're like me. Often I'm hired because of my expertise and background, but allowing that person to have their own experience with it and work through it with them, right? And actually just staying really present with them so they can uncover perhaps their own brilliance.
Yep. I've noticed, I've tried to help out a few people. And one thing that I've noticed is they always know the answer to their question, but they never realize it. So whenever you talk, it's the weirdest thing for me. Like when you talk to them with a problem, and then my simple question is, if you were to step out of yourself, and answer the question for this person, what would you answer? And it's always the correct answer. It's the weirdest things, like when you're doing, and it's not really our fault, but our human mammalian brains just don't understand that. No. And once you get out of the way.
Yes. And I think the other part is we are programmed, our brains are programmed to see the negative. It's why we become the apex species, right? So the other side of that, exactly. And we analyze, our brains are really good at analyzing that very quickly. So also shifting the perspective, because we're really good at seeing what could go wrong, but we're not very good at seeing what could go right. And most of the time, both possibilities are equally as likely. So if we're going to overanalyze the negative, we better overanalyze the positive so we can be prepared and also moving in the positive direction as much as we can.
Agree. We do real estate and buy multifamily properties and show people how to invest in multifamily. And what we do is when we look at a property, at first it's the analyzation is what possibly could go wrong with this. And then once all those possibilities are gone, then we proceed. So it is important to consider, but like you said, equally value what could go right.
Exactly. And we're not very good at doing that, particularly if we're trying to do it by ourselves.
Yes. Agreed. And when you have coachees or mentees, do you refer them to their other teams? Or do you ask them to challenge their teams and have the teams challenge them?
100%. Because I think that is really important. We need feedback, even if we're the founder, the owner, the boss, whatever you want to call yourself. Our team has a great deal of data for us. They are on the front lines. They are working with our clients. They are working with our vendors. They have a direct line. And if we are not soliciting feedback from them, if we are not asking them, where do you feel like I'm performing well? Where do you feel like I have opportunities to enhance my leadership? Where's my growth edge? Here, let's talk about how we can support and help each other. If you are not soliciting that feedback, you're not growing, and you're going to stunt the growth of your team and your business as a result.
I heard it a different way. A friend of mine's a coach, and he goes, whenever I get hired by a company to go from 5 million to 10 million, I run to the head guy. I'm like, why?
Yes.
He goes, they're always the bottleneck.
Yes.
He goes, they're always the bottleneck. There's always the one that slows everything down, and if you just let,
yes,
and you can open that bottleneck up, the company thrives. It's really kind of crazy to think like that, though.
It is. The other way I would put it is let the smart people that you hired do the work you hired them to do. Right. Mm-hmm. And I believe really firmly in a strategic approach to your talent. And I think if you are in a place where you have a solid people strategy, you are anticipating what is the talent that I need to accomplish the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, maybe even 10-year business plan. And you are actually designing the structures, the roles, and the systems properly, and you are standing in their way, you are 100% the problem. And that's where the consulting and the coaching really comes together. So let's get your people strategy organized. Let's make sure you have a great culture so people feel like they can deliver their best work. They feel awesome coming to work for you every day. And also, let's make sure as a leader, as the CEO, as the boss, again, whatever you want to call yourself, that you are ready to lead that awesome team and enable them, get out of their way so they can deliver for you.
Exactly. The way he put it was they're the bottleneck. And I didn't understand what he meant until about a year later. I'm like, oh, because how many bosses say, oh, we can't do this. We shouldn't go like this. We shouldn't. And you hired those people, like you said, you hired the talent.
Yes.
Let them do their job.
Yes.
And they want to do their job. They picked that job to do that kind of job.
100%. And I'm an eternal optimist. I believe that the majority of people actually want to do great work. They want to be seen and heard and respected for that. That's your job as a leader, is to make them feel like they can deliver their best and get the roadblocks out of the way. And if you are the one standing in the middle of the road, you are the bottleneck, you are the problem, and you need to get out of the way. You need to get underneath why are you still standing there? That's where the coaching becomes infinitely valuable.
Gotcha. If you could go back to your 20s and do one thing different and one thing the same, what would those things be?
Wow, that's a zinger.
Well, I'm going to throw curveballs to you for a couple more times.
Yeah, I think on a very personal level, into my 20s, I was a high performance athlete myself. I played basketball. And I chose my very first year out of high school to go to a university across the country to play basketball. And the choice that I would reverse, I would have stayed here and I would have played for a hometown school. And that would have changed the trajectory of my athletic career, probably would have changed the trajectory of my entire life. I would change that. I absolutely would have stayed home. And I think I would have played a lot longer than I actually got to.
Did you not enjoy it when you went to that school?
It was challenging. It was a very challenging move. I was 17. I moved from Alberta to Ontario.
You graduated high school at 17 in Canada. If not mistaken, you have 13 years of school.
No, that's Ontario. In Alberta, we have 12.
Okay.
My birthday's in the fall.
Me for a minute there.
No, my birthday's in the fall. So I graduated in June. I was 17 when I moved cross country. And that was hard. Family is a huge value for me. I love my family. I see my family all the time, talk to them every day. And I thought I was a big girl and I was going to move across the country and I was going to play ball and it was going to be awesome. And you know what? I was homesick. I was desperate to get back to my family. So that in my 20s is one thing I would absolutely change. One thing I think I did really is I actually recognized that it really woke me up, especially very early in my life, that my family was key. It was something that was so important to me and not just who I am, but the people I want to surround myself with. And so that was a lesson learned very early. And now being close to my family, being connected to them, not just by phone or by video, but physically in their presence all the time, it has absolutely shaped who I am. And it changed the way I show up for them, my extended family, but also the way I've crafted my family.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Those are two great lessons.
Yeah.
I moved 5 miles from my son last year, and then 3 months later, he told me he's going to make me a grandpa. So now I'm a grandpa.
Aww.
And
That's
like you
wonderful.
said, family in the right spot, being close to family is very important.
Yes, very important.
Sounds like things are going pretty well for you financially. Thinking about the future, have you ever created passive income, and how'd you do it?
Yeah, that's not one thing that I have been able to actually harness just yet, but it's in process. It's in process.
What's your process? What are you going for?
Yeah, so
What is your game plan to do it? There's all different ways of doing it.
yeah, so one of my game plan to do it is actually to use really leverage a skill set that I've had for a very long time. So I started my HR career in recruitment. I actually really enjoy it. And most HR professionals would tell you they hate it, but it's something I've always loved. And it's a segment of my client that actually needs a lot of help. Those startups, they're hiring their first few employees and they do a really terrible job of it for the most part, right? Sometimes they get lucky. But by and large, it's very onerous and it doesn't work out. It's a roll of the dice, right? But it's also
It's hard to find good people.
It is, and especially if you don't know what you're doing. And a lot of them just go to Google or they go to chat. What are some interview questions? And they just roll the dice. So again, a skill set that I have deep knowledge in, right? So it's also a segment that does not have a ton of extra money. The money that they do generate in a startup gets driven right back into the business. And I respect that because I've been in that space. So what we're doing is leveraging all of my background and experience to create a really valuable recruitment course specifically designed for small business owners. Give them the tools and the training from real expertise so that they can walk and step it through micro learning. What do I need to know to do today? I need a job description. Okay, let's walk you through it. Let's prepare you to do it and do it in a way that's actually going to attract the right talent because I do it differently than everybody else. So we're actually in the process of creating that so we can offer that as an evergreen offer to them, right? That they can go, they can access the course, they can do the micro learning so they can have real success at the end and feel confident in who they're hiring, why they're hiring them, and that they're going to get the right skills, the right experience, and most importantly, the right person who's going to show up and deliver that great work for them. So that we think will really address a real market need and also be that passive income for the organization that really generates that consistent level of income.
Nice. Great idea. What is one of the greatest lessons you've learned in your career or life?
Oh, wow. You're really just knocking these out of the park this morning. I think one of the greatest lessons that I have learned that applies in my career, but even more importantly in my life, is to trust my gut. Every mistake that I've ever made, including my first marriage, I ignored my intuition. I didn't listen. And now, today, if my gut says, as I'm grabbing my purse and walking out of the house, take a pair of socks. I take a pair of socks. I don't know why I need them, but my gut says I'm going to need socks. And that's just one example. But when I make decisions in my business, that gut check, I might work all the way through that risk register. And is this a good decision? And do we have the budget? And all those things that you do as a business owner. And then the final check mark is, how does it feel? And that has been absolutely critical to my success because my gut is never wrong.
Nice. Good. A lot of people don't trust their gut.
Nope.
Thanks for being on the show and wrapping up the interview. What do you got exciting planned for the next 6 to 12 months?
Because I practice what I preach, I have my own coach. because I think a coach that doesn't have their own coach probably isn't really working on their own stuff. And my coach very recently challenged me to 10x my business in the next 18 months.
Nice.
So, right? Hit me like a ton of bricks. So I don't even know how I'm going to do. That was just last week. So I don't even know how that's going to work. But that's what I am going to be working on is the strategic plan and the talent plan, right? Because I'm going to have to scale my team. I'm really going to have to work my own magic here. But how am I going to get to that 10x space by next year? And so that is the exciting thing that I'm working on right now.
Awesome. That sounds great. Listen, thanks a lot for being on the podcast. Wondering, how would you like people to get in touch with you if they want to talk to you about coaching?
Yeah, and I would absolutely love that. You can always connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca. You can find me. I hang out a lot on LinkedIn. It's Lindsay White. Come and connect with me. I love that. And I'm also on Instagram at highvoltleadership.
Nice. Beautiful. Thanks a lot for being on the show. And if you need any coaching, please contact Lindsay. Lindsay, thanks a lot for being on the show. Appreciate you. We're going to say goodbye to everybody else. Please subscribe so you can get some more information, some more tips and tricks to everybody. Thanks again for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.